This is Dolynny TV, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of Edmonton Oilers discussion. Yeah, we're not talking games, not another disappointing night, hopefully, in the books after this evening wraps up and I get to bed, go to work tomorrow morning kind of deal. No. Last night's rookie game now behind us. Rookie camp now behind us after the open skate at West Edmonton Mall today. And now we look forward to tomorrow, a rare little quiet day here in September 11th, of course, a somber day, a good day to have a rare kind of off day in Oilers land. But with that said, we did talk to Ken Holland today, did the media in Edmonton. So as fans, we got our chance to kind of hear the chat and get to know what Ken Holland's going to feature come camp. And there's quite a few little tidbits in there about it. And I mean, the number one thing I think obviously you have to start with, and especially kind of focus on, which, sorry guys, petted the cat earlier. The focus that we've all been worried about all off season long, but at the same time, I don't want to sit here and repeat myself a million times over, is this whole Connor McDavid, will he be ready to start the year or not? So now from the sounds of it, from Ken Holland, general manager of the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid will not play a preseason game. That's almost as solid information gets, straight from the mouth of the horse that is the general manager. So where does that leave us? Well, it kind of leaves us exactly where Ken Holland wants us to be, it almost sounds like, is the fact that with one body out of the lineup that will be in the lineup to start the year or a few games into the year, the factor there is that opens a spot for Ken Holland and Dave Tippett to experiment with the lineup, kind of experiment with the team, and see who's going to fill what roles, play what lines, and find that chemistry and then inject Connor McDavid, right? You think about it this way. If you build a team without Connor McDavid and then inject Connor McDavid, the only way you should go is up. Whereas as you've seen the past 2 years, you've built a team around Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's gone up and the team's failed, right? For the most part. Nuge, Draisaitl, Nurse, Clefbaum, a couple of exceptions in there, but for the most part, it just hasn't worked the other way. So for Ken Holland and Dave Tippett, this seems maybe almost with the way the offseason worked, with how the signings have come to camp and stuff, it seems like this might actually be a blessing in disguise. Now, in his 12-minute press conference, media scrum, I always get it wrong, he didn't mention anything about Kyle Brodziak that I heard. I could be totally mistaken. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and sit through another 12 minutes again. But you understand where I'm coming from, right? There's that still open question. The one thing he did touch on outside of the Connor McDavid issue, other than him not being ready to start the year possibly, we already knew that. Don't need to repeat it. I'm not going to get worried. Breathe. That's all I got to say. Just breathe. So, the other thing he did touch on is, of course, that conundrum of the 7th, 6th defenseman, whatever you want to call it, for the Edmonton Oilers. You've got Persson, you've got Jones, Bouchard, Bear, Samorukov, Legason, and a bunch of other guys that could fill in that 6-7 role. Obviously, yes, Bouchard's going to get a long look, basically being the only impressive rookie out of those rookie games, because, of course, he had a goal. That's a very impressive thing that only happened once in the 2 games for the Oilers. But you understand, right? He's had a great start to last year, great camp, came in, played a few games in the NHL, went back to juniors, did a very incredible season down there as well. More playoffs than regular season, but you get where I'm going. So he's going to get a long look, but it's open competition at camp. And I think realistically, as you kind of already had me say, is Ken Holland's going to let a lot of guys play for a lot of spots, and that means a lot of games in training camp. He said there's some guys that'll play probably 6, maybe 5 training camp games, preseason games, pardon me, to find where they sit in the lineup. And I think, honestly, what you're going to see a lot of is the defense. You're going to see the defense, probably a lot of the young guys play 5 games, and then the last 2 games you'll actually have an NHL quasi defense for the Edmonton Oilers out there lining up against the opponents. Of course, September 28th in Calgary, a game I'm very damn well hoping to go to if I can negotiate my way into a good evening. But we'll find out more about that in a few weeks here. So that's another thing he mentioned. And then the other thing in that he kind of touched on is the fact that he mentioned a name we haven't heard much about, and we'll talk about him a little bit in the next video, is Brandon Manning will be in camp, and he will be competing for that 6-7 defenseman role, which oh my goodness, I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all, but it is what it is, and it is what we'll have to deal with as Oilers fans throughout the month of September. Hopefully that means we find him a new team, ship the bum out of here, and get ourselves a good draft pick. But with that said, who the heck knows what's going to end up happening, and maybe he comes to camp new fit form and our 7th defenseman, and he's better than Kevin Gravel last year. You just never know. Now, the one other thing that Ken Holland kind of touched on is the leadership. The media made sure to talk about the leadership group, which Ken Holland's term for it is, and that includes James Neal and Mr. Mike Smith. What was absent from there is Leon Draisaitl's role. I really think everybody is underestimating how much of a role Leon Draisaitl has to play in the leadership core of this Oilers team this year. You don't just go out there and offensively score and then say you'd give back goals if you don't want to be that guy that is the team-centric team leader kind of takes. So, right, that is what it is. There's a dynamic nobody wants to focus on, and it's Leon Draisaitl as a leader in the Edmonton Oilers locker room. But as for Mike Smith and James Neal, that is exactly why they were added, according to Ken Holland. He sits there and says, basically, yeah, like, we didn't make these moves for nothing. There is a reason you bring in veterans, and it's basically when the going gets tough, they've been through it, they'll get the young guys through it, and we'll get going back to the positive streaks. Well, guys, we've heard that a million times before, okay? We've heard that 17-18, 18-19, 11-12, 13-14, 08-09. You want me to keep listing everything since 05-06? I will damn well do it, because we've had that constant turnover of veterans failing. Why was Milan Lucic brought in here? Right, it is what it is. So, hopefully, in this realm, Ken Holland, being a guy who's educated in hockey, a guy who's educated in winning, this actually pans out for once into a turning point for the Oilers, using veteran leadership from outside the club, coming into a new year, and burning something to the ground that was the old culture, building a new one, and building a winning, successful team. That is our hope, and that is what we are really counting on as Oilers fans this year. Competitive, push for the playoffs, and let's just see what heart and determination gets us. That's literally what we've got, hopes and prayers. But, I mean, I ain't going to get political. With that aside, the simple fact here is the other side of training camp is the professional tryouts, the PTO contracts. Risk reward, right? There's no real risk, high reward. I guess low risk, high reward is what I should have worded it as. But you understand where I'm going right there, is the simple concept of bringing in a guy, filling out the roster for camp, and hoping something turns out with him. Ken Holland, in one breath, said no PTOs at this time. Then somebody had to mention Anton Berdislav, and bang. All of a sudden, oh yeah, we could bring him on a PTO, and yeah, maybe we could have something. Yeah. So I really don't understand which way he's going to lean. But he kind of also mentioned that Berdislav is going to go maybe to another team during training camp. So there isn't much to it at this point. We'll find out how much more there is to these Berdislav kind of rumors and kind of contacts that Ken Holland's made with his agent, Mr. Winter. And we'll find out if anything boils down sometime in the next few days, because what ends up happening is tomorrow there's medicals and physicals and all that, the conditioning testing and all that, and then training camp officially opens on Friday, and then by Sunday or Monday the Oilers will make their first cuts, and we'll be talking who is in camp for the training camp games. Obviously, you understand Olivier Rodrigue, one of those guys down there, but we will get more into that in my next video. The training camp roster was released today. We'll talk all about that in the next one, guys. Right now, you've seen it all video long. trying to keep going on that sub train up and up and up, maybe hit 5 digits sometime this year. So if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. If you watched all the way through this, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We'll talk more Oilers in about 2 hours time here, guys. I invite you back. Get your notifications on. Click that bell next to the button after you subscribe. You'll get notifications to your phone, computer, whatever you want. And I will catch you, as always, in the next one. I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. I am up on out of here.